So as you know, I like true crime, and someone in the super chat on Friday suggested that I check out the YouTube channel Profiling Evil, and I did.
Mm.
And they're currently covering a case that's going on in Tennessee. And I just, again, just talking about the conversations we've had about trying to understand evil, what is evil? And, I have some friends who are atheists who not you, Carter, I don't think, but a friend of mine who believes that evil is not real, and that anything evil a human does is basically something that we don't understand scientifically yet that can be fixed in the future once we do understand it. That you can give a pill to cure every type of evil.
So it's like
I
a
just don't believe
determinist
that.
approach.
Yeah, a determinist approach. I just don't believe that. And so
No,
this
I do
case,
believe in free
again,
will.
I was
Yeah.
like, I believe in free will, and yes, I think there are certain obviously science has shown us that some people that have a proclivity for crime have different theta activity in their brain, and there are definitely medicines like Ritalin or things that can be used to help, and certainly, but I do think evil is not just some manifestation of some wiring that's gone wrong. I think it is a conscious choice that some people make, and they enjoy it. And this case that's in the news in Tennessee is this guy, Joe Guy Jr., who butchered his parents. And in his 30s, they've been supporting him his whole life, and they had decided they were going to quit supporting him. And so he killed them. And he had a detailed journal about how to do it, and he was pretty intelligent. He went to a science and math boarding school like I did, where they take gifted kids out and put them in a school for 11th and 12th grade. So it's not like some mental defect when it comes to intelligence. There could definitely be something else wrong with him. But if you watch him, I was watching some of the stuff, and his siblings are, during the victim impact statements, were crying, of course, and talking about how he took their parents away. And he had this whole detailed journal of how he was going to do it, very systematic of what he was going to
Wow.
do, and not just killed them, but like butchered them after the fact and did awful things. And as they're talking and they're showing all this emotion, he's just sitting there, completely unmoved, no remorse, like he's sitting watching the news, just
Did he have
completely.
psychopathy? Because that's a.
Yeah, like probably psychopath, but I know this isn't a topical news thing, the kind of thing we usually talk about, but it is in the news in Tennessee currently, and maybe we have some true crime fans who are watching this. But I watched something like that, and it convinces me of that evil exists. And I was wondering what you think about the topic of evil, which we've talked about before.
I mean,
I don't think yeah,
evil is how we categorize certain behavior. Like, I don't. Of course, evil exists. Like,
yeah,
you don't need. I get the determinists that are like, oh, it's just some crossed wires, and someday we'll be able to give them a pill. Okay, even if that were true, which I don't believe it is, even if that were true, that doesn't mean it's not evil. Like, like
right,
their actions are
right,
evil. And I would say in general I call actions evil that violate individual rights, and so that includes things like attempt to gain a value through deceit, which is lying. It includes things like stealing. Um, and then I have a lesser standard for things that are like mean but not evil necessarily, but like, and usually we call people evil who take pleasure in the suffering of others. Like, that's a form of sadism that we generally
right.
call evil. But there's no, you don't need to throw out the, just because there might be underlying causes that we figure out. You don't need to throw out the concept of evil and say what there's it's not evil. That's just not that's not the way it is.
Yeah.
And as we've learned from Charles Murray, uh, there's a roughly half of personality is just we don't know what it is. Like, half of it's correlated to genetics, and the other half basically, like,
We don't know.
We
Yeah.
don't know. So, I mean, if you're going to have conversations with people, you kind of have to assume that free will exists because you're trying to convince people of things. And like, otherwise, if you don't think free will exists, you can just curl up in the corner and die and no one has to talk to you. Like, it doesn't, there's no, you're just a cog in a machine. So you kind of have to behave like free will exists. And so even if you are, I'm not a determinist, but even if you are, you kind of just need to accept that we live under this assumption of free will and therefore things are evil. Some things are good. Andrew
Andrew
Joyner.
Joyner again.
Okay, go ahead.
He says determinism and responsibility are not compatible.
Absolutely correct. That's
Yeah,
why
I
they like
agree.
determinism, because they really love the idea that no one is responsible for anything, and uh, that allows them to basically get away with anything they want, and it gives them the intellectual ammunition by which they can argue we need to build a system where we manipulate people. So
Yeah, so see, my friend, my atheist friend who doesn't believe in free will
I
and who
think I know the
believes
one you're
that
talking about.
evil,
Yeah.
yeah, who believes that evil doesn't exist and that it's all just some, medical issue that we will one day figure out and then there'll be a system to fix people, right? It literally doesn't believe that you have the free will to choose things. Like for example, if there's two addicts and one addict gets sober and the other doesn't, he doesn't believe that that addict who got sober is making conscious choices that lead him to the path of sobriety. He believes that addict that there's something in his brain, something chemically that predisposes him, that causes him to make those choices, that he has no free will whatsoever. And I don't understand that. Again, like you said, why even wake up in the morning then? What's the point?
Yeah, I mean, so
Everything's pre-planned for you.
yeah, determinism
Yeah.
is based on this idea that because effects have causes, um, therefore there can be no free will. And I think even determinists, even most determinists, will argue, well, we should behave as if we have free will. Uh, like we should behave as if we do. Now, I'm not in that category of determinist either, but it's this kind of weird. Well, because effects have causes, therefore there's no free will at all. And I mean, maybe it will be true someday that we develop a pill to help someone overcome their alcohol addiction, but we're not going to get there unless we behave like we have free will and well, we're supposed to like we got to
Yeah.
get there somehow. So I don't see even the point in arguing for this stuff because if someone's a pure determinist and they want to argue with something, you can dismiss them out of hand and say like, yeah, well, I'm not programmed to agree with you, so okay, the end. Like, like oh well,
I don't I don't have the free will.
yeah, I don't
I
have
don't
the
have
free
the
will to
free
change my
will
mind.
required to change
Bye.
my mind.
Yeah, like I don't, there's no. It's a useless position to have when trying to communicate anything to anyone. So it's one of these like philosophical masturbations that I don't care. It's like, oh, what if we're like, okay, well, go in your corner, go get your PhD and smoke pot and sit in the corner and think about not having any free will. The rest of us are going to live our lives. Uh,
Okay. Thank you for that.